Welcome to the Teach, Lead, Innovate podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of innovation, leadership, and transformative ideas shaping the future of education and technology. Each episode is a journey into the minds of visionary educators, thinkers, and leaders who are not just talking about change, they're living it. Real people leading real change. This is where passion meets practice and ideas come to life. Welcome to the Teach, Lead, Innovate podcast. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Teach, Lead, Innovate podcast. I am so excited to welcome today Cordarius Williams, a middle school math teacher and coach for the last 10 years. His life's mission is to transform the lives of teenagers by changing the way they think. Welcome to the Teach, Lead, Innovate podcast, Cordarius.
What's going on, Dave? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing wonderful today. So excited to have you on here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, bro. I'm excited.
So, Cordarius, let's start off. Can you tell us more about you, your background, where you're from, what inspired you to get into education?
So, y'all, I'm from a small town called Marshall, Texas, a town of about 23,000 people or so. I was one of three kids of a single mom for most of my life. She got married when I was in the sixth grade. I got in a whole lot of trouble as a young boy. I would lie a lot. I would always underperform, man. I was always into some mischievousness, I never, Dave, really tapped into my fullest potential because while I got in trouble a lot, my grades were also high. So I never really tried in school. School has always come easy to me, but what wasn't easy for me, Dave, was learning how to become a man. That's what I struggled with. Yeah. And so when I went through Marshall, graduated in 2012, Marshall High School, I went on to East Texas Baptist University to get my bachelor's in kinesiology, all-level kinesiology, with an education track. And on my teacher essay, I wrote this: we had to apply to the education program, and we had to write an essay. The essay said, why you want to be a teacher? On that essay, and it's crazy, Dave, because what I wrote, I didn't really understand the heaviness of what I was writing, but now I do. On that essay, I wrote, I just want to be a positive Black male role model for all of these kids out here.
Wow.
And that's what my essay was about, because I feel like that as a young boy, if I would have had a me, I would have been valedictorian of my class. But I didn't have that teacher. I didn't have that. I love my mom. She did great. Look at me now, And at the same time, I wasn't raised in an emotionally responsible house, which affected my performance. And if they would have identified, I was just a young Black boy walking around in these streets, really wanting that relationship from someone who looked like me, someone who loved me, someone who cared about me. That's all I really wanted. So I acted out. That's all our kids want, man. They just want somebody who's like me. And so that's why I'm in education. And that's why I teach math, because a lot of kids struggle in math. They come into the math classroom already defeated. I mean, we have so many grants for math. That's how much our kids struggle in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so why don't I, as a Black man, get into math and teach them how to conquer the hardest thing in their life so far?
Such a powerful message, Cordarius. Such a powerful message. Keep going. Please.
Yeah. So, and so by doing that, I teach my kids that math is a metaphor for life, which on most grading rubrics, they ask, how do we relate math to real life? I relate it to real life by making it a metaphor to life. You see, in a math classroom, there's a whole lot of problems, but math is finite. There is always one answer for the question that's being asked. And if you apply the right strategies, the right formula, you'll get the right answer every time. You see, but the reason why our kids do not get the right answers on the standardized test is because they're not taught how to slow down. They're not taught how to dissect. They're not taught how to comprehend word problems. So what I do is, through math, I also teach them in life how to slow down, how to apply strategies, how to break down what it is that they're handling, the argument that they just had in the hallway.
Those vital
We
life
break
skills,
that down.
that are going to carry them not just through their years of schooling, but through life.
Right. Yeah. And that's my background, man. Shout out to my wife, LaShandra. I've been married for 9 years. Shout out to Deuce. Shout out to Champ. If y'all hear some shrieks in the background, they are up and moving. So, so shout out
That's
to my
awesome.
family. I love them. I love them.
Family's everything. So you say
Yeah,
your mission
they
that
are.
your mission is to, you say, you transform the lives of teenagers by changing the way they think. Can you delve deeper into this? What about their thinking?
So you have two parts of your brain. You have the conscious part and the subconscious part. The conscious part is the voice that you hear in your head. Sadly, for most of our teenagers, the voice that they hear in their head is, I can't do this. I'm slow. I'm dumb. If they make a mistake, they immediately utter those words verbally out loud. Now, those thoughts, those depressive thoughts, those anxious thoughts, those low self-esteem thoughts, they are birthed from the second part of your brain called the subconscious. The subconscious is what you do consciously without really thinking about it. A base example of that would be if you stood up and walked right now, you don't have to think about it because it's in your subconscious to know how to do it. The way our kids think, they think based off of their subconscious, the things that they see at home that's been taught to them for the biggest time of learning in their life. And they've absorbed the arguments. They've absorbed the trauma. They absorbed everything that they've been through. And so now consciously, they don't think that they can perform in a classroom, which is why our data is not where our data needs to be, because our kids are being pressured to perform in a way that's mentally impossible because they haven't tapped into the subconscious. So when I say we have to change the way that they think, we have to tap into the subconscious. We have to tap into the emotions of a child. And Dave, if I'm being 100% honest right now, it's hard for us to tap into the subconscious of our children when we don't know how to tap into the subconscious of ourselves.
Absolutely. It starts with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I mean. That's what I mean by changing the way that they think. When I get them to say, I can do this, when I show them, Dave, that they can do it, my data in my cohort right now, I have the numbers to prove it and aware. My data is some of the highest in the district, and I work at a Title I school. And I'm able to do that. I show them what they can do. I'm honestly, Dave, like on a mathematical standpoint, I'm only 50% of the 100%. They give me the other 50, and sometimes they outdo me because I've changed the way that they think about themselves subconsciously. So now when they walk underneath the threshold of B214, they already believe that they can do it. That's the change. That's the transformation. Believing that you can create whatever it is in life, including a good education, bro.
So Cordarius, 100%. You mean, absolutely. This is exactly what we need in education today, not just education, everywhere in the world. But why do you think it exists that need exists? Why, what is wrong with our system that our kids don't grow up knowing that, especially minority students? What's wrong? What's going on?
I want to address that on two separate sides. The first side, I want to talk about parents. And then the second side, I want to talk about teachers. And sometimes I got to identify that now, because I be forgetting where I be going sometimes.
No problem. I completely understand.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the first side I want to talk about is parent. These kids, they really need y'all to care. I'm not saying that you don't care. I don't want you to think of this as me being judgmental because I don't know how it is underneath your roof. However, I can only give you from the teacher's desk, from the teacher's, perspective. I see your kid, the teachers see your kid more than you, on any given week. And so they have different sides of themselves. And I'm giving you the side that I see inside of education. Most of our kids, Dave, have low self-esteem. Most of our kids are depressed. Most of our kids have test anxiety. Anxiety comes from a place of worry. And I believe the first place that this starts is in the household. A lot of parents can't emotionally stick with their children. So their children often go emotionally unchecked underneath the house. The parent we don't know how to speak life into our kids. I tell my son he's a genius every day. He's 4, he's saying words like articulation. He's saying words like edible. He's saying words like integrity. Why? Because I tell him he's a genius every single day. Cool. So I think that parents, we need to know how to speak into our kids' lives in a way that allows them to perform to the best of their ability at whatever stage of life they're in. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And what about from the teacher perspective?
So
what about for the teachers?
For the teachers, for the administrators, for school staff, for education, for policy writers, for everybody, from superintendents, from everybody, we have to show these kids that we care. I want to tell you a story. As a teacher, I've been in this thing for 10 years. I've run across multiple students, like thousands of students rather. Thousands of students who don't believe in themselves. And for a lot of my students, Dave, I'm their only hope, just like I wrote on that paper when I was 18. Because sadly, a lot of kids underneath their roof, they see a whole lot of stuff that we don't have to get into right now. And as their teacher, I am the one smiling face that they see all day. Mm-hmm. I come into my house dog tired. I got to drag myself into my house because I give my kids everything that I have because I am the only one that they have. And so the teachers, we got to check how much we care. And care for me is an acronym, but before I get into that acronym, there's an old quote that says, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I have 100%. To be consistent for my kids every day. I have to check on them. I have to be consistent in my culture. I have to be consistent in my classroom management. I have to be consistent with my attitude. And consistent doesn't mean perfect. But that just means if it's just not my day, I let them know that it's not my day. And I have systems in my classroom that helps me when it's just not my day. I don't take my attitude out on my kids. I don't come to school with a frown on my face. I don't do that. I love what I do. I'm consistent. I'm authentic. I show my kids that I'm a real person. I'm relatable, bro. Like, I understand what these kids are going through because I know what I went through as a 12 and 13-year-old with no social media.
And I think, Cordarius, just like you said about being relatable, that speaks again to the power of relationships. They know you. You're getting to know them. Can any of this work be done without relationships? I don't think so. It's everything.
No. And I think that's the answer to your question right there is relationships. What's stopping us? What's stopping teachers from getting higher student achievement? It's relationships. What's stopping parents? Relationships. The relationship is everything. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
100% true. So, Cordarius, you just told us, again, you've been doing this for 10 years. In your decade of experience, how have you seen the role of a teacher, math teacher, evolve?
We're able with math. Number one, it's evolved because it's become more, technology. It's evolved, and we still have a whole lot to catch up on as well. And so one way that I've seen it evolved is how innovative we teach it, how we set up our classrooms. the manipulatives that we use while we teach. For an example, I used the iPad box the other day to teach surface area of a rectangular prism. So I'm in a, like, in that way, I think we've evolved in the manipulatives and like how our students learn, you know, and we're allowed to, I'm even allowed in my network to talk about social and emotional aspects of learning. We've evolved in that aspect as well.
Absolutely. I think we've seen
Yeah.
such a tremendous change with teaching. I mean, to say that changing has evolved and changed in the past 10 years is an understatement of vast proportion. But I think we take a look at technology. Just looking in the news the other day, and you know, AI is huge now. And I remember it was like maybe year and a half ago when ChatGPT came out, and then it was doing pictures, and now they're about to be able to, you give it a prompt and it does videos too.
Right.
How do you think that with it, you know, with say AI and if you take a look at the Apple Vision Pro now, right? I'm not sure if you follow the Apple Vision Pro. They put it on as an immersive environment. So how do you think that those technologies are going to change, affect, transform math education or just education as a whole?
You know, I'm gonna stay in math and will apply to education as a whole, because I'm gonna stick with the analogy of the Apple Pro. What if we catch up? What if we continue to evolve and now we offer goggles in our learning? What if in those goggles, the kids can learn and they can hold a real 3D object and they can break it down, and then they can have a virtual measuring stick, tape measure to measure the sides of it, and not a dilated image either, like a real size. You know, what if they could, in those said goggles, be in a creative world to where they can build a house? What if we can use pieces of wood in those goggles and do Pythagorean theorem? What if in English, we could pull up the books in the goggle and we can say, oh, highlight, and we could highlight that. And then simultaneous for our audible listeners, what if they can hear the book inside of those goggles at the same time they're reading? That's why I didn't like reading, because I was forced to read. I like audible. I like to look at it as something reads to me. What if we did that in our reading classes? What if Dave out here with this one? What if in those said goggles we have in our science class where they could literally see a volcano erupt? What if they could see those things inside of those goggles?
100%. And I think, and I'm excited. I'm like really excited for what the future of the tech integration holds, because, and applying it to history, I always think, imagine, you know, I remember for most of my public education life, when I was a student, I didn't like history because it was just taking notes on the board and regurgitation of facts and dates. But imagine crossing the Delaware with General Washington, and you're there, you feel like you're there, or you're at a specific Civil War battle, or you're in World War II, like you're experiencing, or you're walking down the streets of New York in the 1930s. It becomes experiential to a whole new level. So I have a question for you, Cordarius. Can you discuss a moment of failure or setback in your teaching career and how it shaped your approach moving forward? Or any of your any particular struggle and how you move forward from that?
I'd say that one of my biggest failures in teaching earlier on was failing to relate the math content like to real life. I struggled with that, and my data was down. Like I actually struggled with building the relationship, like the educational relationship. The life application relationship wasn't hard for me, but teaching them, while I did that, I struggled for many years. My data was average for many years. I wasn't like, I didn't really, because I was a coach too. So the lesson plans, the time management, the formative assessments, you know, the backwards planning, I struggled with that, Dave. You know, if I'm being completely transparent, I wasn't very coachable either. You know, I talk the talk, but at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, it ain't about the numbers, but I was gravely mistaken, because now I know that getting my kids to achieve, like to accomplish something, man, their confidence skyrockets. So I had to learn how to mirror the educator relationship and the life side relationship. And I struggled with that for many years, bro.
Thank you for sharing that. I think
Yeah.
that's a very powerful insight, and I'm pretty sure that you're not the only one who struggled with that. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody listening that goes, "Wow, that's not just me." So
Yeah.
what advice, right? Because I got to say that I think so many times, and this experience as a teacher, as a vice principal, as a principal, you oftentimes think that you were dealing with something that is isolated, that is only relative to you, but that's not the case. We're all kind of going through this, and I think that's why it's so important to understand that. What advice would you give, Cordarius, to new teachers who aspire to make a similar impact on their students' lives, but might feel overwhelmed by the challenges of the profession?
I would walk them back, understanding that there are a lot of teacher programs out here that gives another untraditional way to become, a teacher, not diminishing the two processes, but, as a person who went to college for education, the training is a lot more extensive. And so I would tie them back to their why. I got to start with the why. Why are we here? Because if you lose sight of the why, and the sad reality of it is that there's going to be some muddy waters around the time. For me, it was around year 3, year 4, year 5. Once you feel like you catch a groove, man, you hit it. You hit that hump, and it's like, oh my gosh, am I in the right career? You got to know your why. Like I wrote on that essay at 18. And I lost sight of this I lost sight of this day because I lost sight of myself. My why was to be a role model for these kids, to be a positive Black male role model for these kids. And moving to Colorado and being a police officer was not the right move for me. I was almost a police officer, bro. Yeah. So the advice, I'm gonna put it in a sentence again. The advice that I would give is to stay rooted to the why, because it's hard out here in these streets. It's hard out here in education. It's demand on top of demand, on top of demand, on top of lesson plan, on top of disagreement, because we're working with other adults. It's a lot. However, the why, it's all about the students. What's your why?
And Cordarius, like we just spoke about, I mean, we clearly need more male Black educators. We need more Black educators in this country. But my question is, how can we attract, as a profession, more male Black educators? How can we do that? What do you think?
And that's a great question, Dave. That's a great question. Maybe we do it through our athletic programs. A lot of our athletes won't become professional athletes. What if in high school we put them on an education track and teach them how to become a coach? So by coaching, you become a teacher. So maybe it's through identifying a love. That's a tough question, because it's hard in general, not just for Blacks. It's just hard to gain educators right now. But besides the obvious reason of paying us more money. If we make education, if we make more money, then we'd attract more people. But
So
it's one of those things, bro.
Point. You're right. So, Cordarius, can you tell us more about Coach Williams University?
So, I laugh because everything that I've previously said is Coach Williams University. Coach Williams University is a mentorship program that changes the lives of teenagers by changing the way that they think. Coach Williams University is my personal business that I've built from the ground up. I like to think of it as a mentorship program that travels to schools doing a few things. The first thing that I have to do is that Like I have to get in front of your students. Like I got to get in front of the kids. Your kids, man, students, the kids hadn't heard anybody speak to them the way that I can speak to them. Like I talk to them, man, kids get me. Like when I talk to them, they understand me and I understand them. Like I always say, do you feel me? And my students know that when I say, do you feel me? I'm not asking them, do they mentally understand me? I'm asking them that when my words fail me, when I don't say the right thing, do you feel the heart in which I'm saying it in? And so I do school assembly. So that way my students, the people that I speak in front of, the students whom I'm inspiring, they can feel my heart and they can see what it looks like to create something from nothing. And so I got to get in front of the kids. Coach Williams University, I speak. I get in front of the kids in school assemblies, in pep rallies. I do a mentorship program to where administration, they choose 30 kids. We can work with the number, but I just say 30 just for the numbers. We choose 30 kids. And of those 30, we have three categories. We have bona fide leaders. We got middle of the pack flyers. And then we have the leaders that get in trouble a lot. And what I do is I take them on a 4-week course, mentorship program. And, of course the numbers can be tweaked, but I take them on a 4-week mentorship program, one course per week that transforms the way that they think on a more personable level. That makes them a leader. So that's the student side of it. The teacher side of it, I'm currently getting my master's in education so I can be a master of education. So that way I can coach teachers how to do what I do. Because essentially, Dave, if I'm there for the students, then by default, I got to be there for the teachers. Because a lot of teachers are struggling and they don't have anyone to coach them through the struggle. So when I get in that school and I mentor these kids, it's going to be highly important that we have some staff members at that campus trained to administer my program. And my program is not even a 1-2 step program, really. We just gotta get in there emotionally and build that relationship and transform the way that they think,
Absolutely. So Cordarius, one more question for you. How can people get in contact with you if they would like to learn more about the services that you offer?
So y'all can get in contact with me, number one, through my social media, in no particular order, but Coach Williams University on TikTok, Coach Williams University on Instagram. I also have a website. I'm going to go slow with this one. It's Coach Williams Univ, UNIV.com. Coach Williams Univ, University shortened, UNIV.com. My email address is coachwilliamsllc@gmail.com. But on my website, I will have a form, administrators, principals, superintendents. If you're interested in having a meeting with me on my website, coachwilliamsuniv.com, there'll be a form that you will fill out. If you are a parent that's listening to this and you want to enroll your child into Coach Williams University, there's going to be a form that you fill out as well.
All right. Outstanding. Cordarius, I want to thank you again for coming on to the podcast today. Honestly, it has been such a pleasure. And again, I walk away like I do for every episode with so much more knowledge and insights. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for seeing my passion and for reaching out, for trusting in me. And I look forward to seeing you in person, man. When you in Texas, I got to give you some of this good old Texas barbecue. When I'm in Jersey, bro, when we're working together, man, you got to show me the best place to eat in Jersey, man.
That I definitely will. All right, everyone. Until we meet again, stay inspired, stay positive, and have the best day ever. Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Teach, Lead, Innovate podcast. If you have not subscribed, please do so. And also press that like button and leave a comment below and let us know specifically what you enjoyed about this week's episode. If you are not following me on the Medium and you're interested in my educational insights and any articles that I have, please follow me on the Medium. And if you're not following me on Instagram or TikTok, I encourage you to do so at The Pedaling Principle. All right, everybody, thank you again, and I will see you in 2 weeks for our next podcast episode.